Hey everyone, it's Jack. This video is something that I'm making very fast because it's very topical and I just want to talk about Global All-Stars because, I feel like everyone has a lot of emotion over it and me included. Global All-Stars had the chance to be an insanely easy slam dunk, touchdown, home run, whatever sports reference you want to use. And yet somehow it seems like they're fumbling this project harder and harder each week. I have a feeling somewhere down the line the franchise is going to get stronger in one way or another. But since episode 3, it has not had a good showcase. There's been some bad judging, some bad editing, which really gets on my nerves, and overall, it just leads to a lot of bad optics. Before we get into the critiques, I want to start off with some of the positives. I thought both of the premiere episodes and all of the talents that were brought were really great, and I think they set a really good foundation for episode 3 to then kind of crush that. The song choices have been so out of left field, but so iconic at the same time, like them just doing Take On Me is crazy. Outside of the girl group, I found a lot of enjoyment in all of the challenges, especially like the theme of the ball has been really cool, and along with the ball, I think almost every runway on the season has been incredible. Everything to do with each of the queen's talents has helped soften the blow of the rest of the season's issues, but that blow isn't soft enough to not talk about, so let's hop into it. On paper, you have a season of Drag Race that is nothing but like a walking parade for just how much the brand has grown and spread worldwide. You're taking 12 queens from 12 different countries that all have their own Drag Race, not even including 3 of the other countries that also have their own Drag Race too. When you put it into that perspective, it's insane how much the show has grown. But this season is feeling less like a celebration of all the different franchises and more like a lopsided competition that is favoring certain queens that we kind of expected it to favor. There's so much that I can cover and I don't want to completely jump to conclusions and say the season is cooked, but if a lot of people were iffy about continuing to watch it last week, I feel like this week is not really helping matters at all. When you're trying to establish a new franchise like this, something that is so big, bigger than itself even, I feel like first impressions are really important, and even if the season does get better, I feel like the foundation is just not there for people to keep watching. The judging so far in each and every episode has been pretty questionable. Sometimes I do think they get the winner right. I think Queen did a great job in this performance, so I understand why she could have taken the win, but I don't think their whole group should have been in the top. For every correct placement they get, I feel like they get 2 to 3 wrong placements. I mean, we saw how Athena was just sniped out of the competition for no reason back in episode 3. I don't think Eva and Gala did the best in this episode, but they had like 4 or 5 lines at most maybe. Like they just were not set up for success. And just how the judging is going right now, it feels like the non-Rue girls have to work overtime to just get half the praise that the Rue girls do. I really did like all of the Rue girls coming into the season. I think Kitty and Queen are really entertaining performers, and we'll get back to Alyssa in a second. Iconic name, I mean, who doesn't like Alyssa at the very least? But here's the first big hurdle that you have to jump over. Every single queen on this cast has given a top-worthy performance at some point, and yet a lot of them haven't been awarded that. Out of the 4 possible episodes that Kitty, Alyssa, and Queen could have competed in, they have won 3 out of the 4. Do I think they gave win-worthy performances a lot of the time? Sure, I feel like you could justify them just as much as you could justify another queen winning. And I feel like that's the point a lot of people are getting at. When there's a crossroads between 2 performances being in the top, either a Rue girl or a non-Rue girl, every single time so far, production has chose the road of the Rue girl. And let's just take a step back and look at that. That's just not a good look, I'm sorry. I don't know the exact angle that production was going for when doing this season, but to me, it just screams insecure in their product, like the audience isn't going to stick around unless these queens are winning every week. But I think they're also forgetting that the audience is going to stick around even less when it comes to a country getting eliminated that they're either from or they were rooting for. Inherently, the Rue girls are going to be seen as the top dogs of the competition, and people by nature are going to want to root for the underdogs, and when the underdogs are not really being seen every week, people are not going to want to watch. And I'm not saying uproot the entire competition to favor X, Y, or Z, but again, we're talking about the crossroads. I think this week, Nelly, Pythia, and Soa did an amazing job, and they could have been that top group, but it just doesn't really seem like they're interested in spreading out the wins like that, and that's just frustrating. It's just not really satisfying to see the 3 queens from the primarily English-speaking seasons to be the most successful in an acting challenge where they're only speaking English. They did a great job, but something that's been said before on the show, I believe Le Grand Dame said it, is that humor doesn't really translate between languages. So when you have ESL performers doing a great job in a comedy challenge where they have to speak English, get over the extra hurdle, I just find that way more compelling. One thing I will give production points for is that the queens were able to write in any language that they wanted for their girl group verse, and I think this is a really great conscious decision that helps the queens write comfortably and just be way more creative all around. So I really hope some choices like that continue further on into the show. But circling back, even down to the little story beats, I feel like they're missing a lot of perspective when it comes to this storytelling. annoying. The ball episode is infuriating in so many different ways, and I feel like it's one of the worst episodes of Drag Race I've seen. I could definitely dissect this episode at one point, but just for right now, Miranda and Vanity at one point are talking about how they just don't have the money to really be opening up their wallets and just buying the most expensive runways, so they get creative because that's the only resources they have. But what the background music is conveying, and then the follow-up statements from Alyssa are conveying, is that this is all just a quirky moment and not like a real issue that people have to overcome.
For us, we have to make outfits and designs most of the time. I came from South America. You have to be creative because we struggle with money.
Now, there's absolutely no way that I could be making all these outfits for myself. I'm not a seamstress, you know, I'm not at home making garments, so I don't just sit in my house like sewing.
We know, Abel. But you know how to sit on the stage, right? So,
and there it is.
It could have easily been a story beat for Miranda, or especially Vanity, who had the stronger design look, to showcase that, yeah, you don't need a wallet, you could just have really good fashion sense and then be able to create something in the workroom and be super successful. And instead, Alyssa, who has the wallet, was put into the top because she had really expensive looks, even though her design look wasn't the strongest. The queens are out here sharing their relatable experiences of how they just don't have as much as other queens from other countries, but that's not going to stop them from finding success. Production sees that, knows that's a thing, but still rewards the country that has more resources. It just does not look good. And this brings me to my next point. It's turning into the Alyssa Edwards show, and a lot of people are already clocking that she's gonna win. And I don't know if that's true, but she's easily the main character of the show. There's constant narration, confessionals, we're talking to her in the workroom, she's interacting with the queens, and I will say, Alyssa is extremely aware of where she's at in the season, who she is coming into the season. Like from the jump, every single talent show, she was really living for it, and I think that's a great thing. There is the conflict with Nelly, and I really hope that it gets resolved because it just kind of left a bad taste for everyone. But I think for Alyssa's run this time, she's just having a really good time, and that's really great. But regardless, the All-Stars 2 critique still holds true here. Alyssa can do anything because she's Alyssa Edwards, and it'll just be funny. It's not full force here like it was in All-Stars 2, but it's still something that I feel like everyone's aware of. She's just flat out iconic. She's entertaining without even trying to be, and when there's 3 US judges on the panel, she's going to connect to them the most out of any other queen in the room. Granted, already in these episodes, outside of the girl group where I don't think she did that great of a job, I think this is still Alyssa's best showcase on Drag Race, because in my opinion, I don't think Alyssa has ever really been good at Drag Race. She's just a really entertaining queen who has a lot of strengths. In seasons past, the judges have never really connected to her runways, and a lot of the time I don't really like her runways either. And she's had just as many iconically bad performances as she's had iconically good performances. So this is definitely her best showcase in just a couple episodes. But honestly, I wouldn't expect any less from a person who's competing for their 3rd time and has like these endless resources. And of course, that is not her fault for using the opportunities that she was given. She's just overall the attention grabber even when she's not trying to be. And when there's 11 other queens representing 11 other countries there and they just aren't given the same attention, I just get a little fatigued in the final product, even though I still really do enjoy Alyssa on the screen. I can sit here and talk about the questionable judging all day, talk about how they have the story beats to make a really compelling story that involves every country and they just don't, but I want to move on to something that personally irks me. I do not like the editing of this season. Let me preface this by saying I don't think we should put like my YouTube videos on a pedestal of what great editing is. They're like okay at best, and I also don't know the time constraints that these editors were on, but it does seem like they either were rushed or they just don't know Drag Race that well. You know when someone points something out in like a TV show and then as soon as they point it out you can't unsee it, can't unhear it? I'm about to do that, so if you don't want to hear that, skip ahead like, I don't know, 30-40 seconds. Coco Chanel famously said, before you leave the house, look in the mirror and take one thing off. And to the editors of Global All-Stars, I wish I could have said, before you export and render, take 50 of the metal cymbal sound effects out of the episode.
Sashay away.
More than some other girls. Am I wrong?
Pithy.
And not the tea.
Kitty.
Alicia. I want
Miss Soa. Let's go, baby. Gala.
Yay! Diva!
Come on, Pivia. Let's go. Come on. Boss the lady. You are on Miranda's team.
I didn't want to.
The metal cymbal sound effect is a staple not only for Drag Race, but for reality TV in general. You'll hear it in basically every show, but it's so excessive here that it gets grating. Almost any form of movement, any transition, there's always that same metal cymbal sound effect in there. On US Drag Race, they do a sound effect between each runway, but it's like a light whoosh, like you can barely notice it.
Saphira.
Not only do I think the metal symbol is too loud here, but I also think it's like piercing in a way. It is one of those sound effects that I think you save for certain moments, not use constantly. And I get it, who cares? I don't know, it's me I guess. But that's just like one example of a ton of little things that I don't like about the edit of this show.
Category is... Welcome, queens.
The runtime for the show is all over the place, and I don't really know the exact reason why. The ball especially was only a little over 42 minutes, and not only do I feel like the runway had to be cut down, and it's cut down in a lot of these episodes, but also the ball is one of the biggest character builder episodes because they're all just sitting in a workroom and they need to talk to each other to stay sane. And I don't feel like we get that above surface level conversation, and even like the winner of the episode, Pythia, is barely in it. I honestly feel like there's very little build up to who's gonna win the episode. It's just gonna be whoever we see on the runway serve the best look. And fully surface level, yeah, that is how it works, but take another ball like season 13, I don't know, like Gottmik and Utica are both designers and we don't know which one's gonna win, and that was set up earlier in the episode. The best way to put it, especially referring to the runtime issue in the episodes, is that there's no tension in who's gonna win the challenge until the performance starts, or even who's gonna be in the bottom either. I really don't feel like there's been a compelling start to finish to any of these episodes. A good episode of Drag Race helps build the overall storyline for the whole season, while also telling its own condensed storyline in just that one episode. And here, we don't really have any other storylines outside of Alyssa being amazing and her relationship mostly with Tessa, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Nilania rising to success. Storyline in particular is tough to critique when the season hasn't finished, so I'm gonna kind of hold my tongue for the most part. There's still a lot of time to establish storylines, and I can see some great ones coming out. Am I confident that they actually will and actually tell a story? No, not at all. But I'm still remaining optimistic, and I'm still gonna watch the season. If they wanted to put their best foot forward, I think they would have got the Drag Race US editors to edit this season. I did a slight deep dive on who the US Drag Race editors are, and after these 5 episodes, I know they've had little to no involvement at all with Global All-Stars. That team can take basically nothing and turn it into a storyline. It's honestly scary at some points, and while they're not always perfect and they can't edit out critiques that the masses do not agree with, I feel like they'll always turn out the best final product for Drag Race that we have. At the same time, we can't spread them thin because they're also working on 17 and probably All-Stars 10 at this point, and I still think it's major that they're getting editors from around the world to edit these episodes. Even if I don't love the product, I still think they know more than me and are doing better, and that's great. This all can be used as a jumping off point to say Global All-Stars should be way more monumental than it feels and actually is. There was a great Meet the Queens, a really amazing promo, and majorly all of the clips were being uploaded to RuPaul's Drag Race, the main YouTube channel. It may not seem like a lot, but that honestly has a really big reach. They give a really promising first impression because you see how much press the US seasons of Drag Race get. And so many people in the fandom thought that the queens were going to be treated to that as well. And yes, there is some press, and I think that's great, but even down to the content that we normally see and helps bolster Drag Race in general, things like fashion photo review and especially the pit stop are not present for Global All-Stars. I'm very happy that we do have Binge Queens because I think it's a great show, but I don't think it's a show that can carry an entire series. You don't even need Raja and Raven specifically for fashion photo review. It could be other fashion queens that live in the LA area. And as for the pit stop, everyone on Twitter is saying, get Angie, get Angie. Angie loves all of the international shows, and she is a super fan, knows every single queen. It would have been great to have her as the pit stop host, and I do get fully logistically she's on tour and she can't do it, but there was just so much setup there for people to expect her to do it because she is a huge international fan and she just won All-Stars 9. It would have been perfect. So it sucks a little that it didn't happen. But even then, Angie can't host? Okay, get someone else to host the pit stop. You don't want to do a full set? Do it over Zoom and get international queens from other seasons to be on. This could have so clearly been a combination of so many different faces that you think we would never see together. Fashion photo review, the pit stop, what you pack in, and even Binge Queens, they serve as good content to have after the episode to keep people talking. And yes, people are still talking about the episodes of Global All-Stars after they air, but majority of the time, it's not for good reasons. They didn't get the best foot forward at the start of the season. I think they got like a couple toes out there, but they fumbled so hard past that by just not doing these shows that are staples for a series that they want to promote. Think about Alyssa Edwards again, and think about Canada Season 1, Piranka. I feel like that season and Global are very similar in a lot of ways. The judging is a mess, and they're still very clearly finding their footing. But I really feel like these online shows helped them get a ton of buzz, a ton of hype, and people hopped on board even if that season was a mess. Overall, I probably sound like a crazy person talking about metal cymbal sound effects, how the edit is slightly sloppy, and how there's no online shows for me to continue my addiction to Drag Race. Yes, it sounds annoying and I'm nitpicking and I'm sorry about that. All of these these little things just build up to the point where it's a feeling of like we don't see eye to eye with where the showrunners are at. I just went into Global so excited because it's honestly a great business move too. A lot of these Drag Race seasons are through Paramount, and it's a really easy way to funnel new viewers into these seasons. But like I said, a lot of the storytelling and the showcasing of these queens is just making people more frustrated and wanting to watch Drag Race less than more. I feel like we're not seeing eye to eye with so much that is going on, and I feel like nothing feels worse in a Drag Race season when we're not able to make our own conclusions for a season. Kitty, Queen, and Alyssa, like I said at the top of the video, are queens that I really enjoyed coming into the season, and I still want to come to the conclusion on my own that they're great performers and great competitors. Like Queen especially, I loved her on Down Under season 2, and I still get so much of that here. So not to make a Ross Matthews comparison type of statement, but you know when you're like about to do the dishes and then someone asks you to do them and then suddenly you don't want to do them anymore? That's how I feel with how they're showcasing these queens on the season. I knew coming to the season that I enjoyed them, but constantly getting beat over the head saying, please, please enjoy them, please, they're gonna be here. It makes it harder to focus on them, honestly. I feel like I'm getting off track a bit, so let me wrap this up in the classic Kumbaya way. Even though at every turn I feel like they're making a disagreeable decision with Global All-Stars, I'm still going to watch it and I'm still going to support. Because this concept is still incredible and I would want to see it again. There's a lot to rightfully critique about this season, but I still think this could be a great opportunity for people going forward in the future. I see what some people are saying, that they shouldn't get a second season of Global All-Stars or it should have never happened in the first place. And with how it looks, the optics right now, yeah, it looks not great at all. But going on to season 1, this can be a great platform for good, for showcasing and all of that. Right now, I can't deny it's not great, but I can see it getting better in the future, and I really hope it does. I really hope they take the critiques and apply it, you know? If you're checked out of the season, I understand, but personally, I am still gonna watch it. Maybe make a drinking game out of the metal symbol sound effect and then end up in the hospital. Please do not send hate to any of the queens. I'll do a video at the end of the season, and hopefully from here, it gets better. Just right now, I'm a little worried and a little disappointed because I thought this product would be a home run, slam dunk, or touchdown. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon with another video.